everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Marketing Inc. I have an awesome guest with me today. Her name is Jennifer Ast, and we are going to be diving deep into social media, live video, and I'm sure some crazy twists and turns along the way. So, welcome to the show, Jennifer.
Oh my gosh, I am so excited to be here and geek out with you on all things social media marketing and just you in general
Well,
because you're
right back
awesome.
at you. Yeah, absolutely. So Jennifer and I met at Social Media Week Lima this past year, and it was so great to get to know her. She has got a really cool, interesting background. I'm sure you guys are about to hear all about it. But she is someone I definitely think you guys could all learn a couple of lessons from. So before we get started, why don't you tell everybody who you are, what you do, and how you got to this stage in your life?
Oh my gosh, all the fun things. I think I'm probably the only meteorologist and social media manager that anyone really knows. I started off as a meteorologist in local TV, and then I transferred over to the Weather Channel as a meteorological content producer, creating graphics for one of their shows, and then transitioned into a social media specialist where I managed all of their social media, including a big live campaign we had with Facebook that started back in 2016, and also Meerkat. We did a lot of lives with Meerkat. Unfortunately, Meerkat isn't with us
Interesting.
anymore. Periscope, all the things. And so my two loves are weather and social media. Social media in the way that it allows people to connect around the world and just have those meaningful conversations. And then weather, just because it's just always unpredictable and it's
And it
amazing.
happens all around the world,
Yes, and
you
nature
know?
is beautiful. So yeah, and so I've kind of now moved into more of a social media role. I am the senior social media manager at Active Campaign, but I still do two weather shows on the side for the Weather Channel. So I
Just a little side gig.
it's just a little side thing. I dip my toes in all the things. But yeah, so I'm a big advocate for live video, whether, you're at a TV network or, have an e-commerce site, you're a small business, an entrepreneur. I think live video is one of the best ways to connect directly with your audience and build that engagement and rapport.
Yeah, so like I said, guys, she has a very interesting background, so much cool stuff that we'll talk about today. So this is just a little note. Have you ever seen Mean Girls?
Yes.
You know how
Yes.
she says she loves math because it's the same in every country?
Oh my God, I love that saying. I
Like
almost
the weather is the same in every, well, not exactly the same, but it happens in every country. It's universal.
This is true. Oh my God, you realize I'm going to make that as a social media post, and I'm
Sure
literally going
hope
to
you
tag
do.
you in it.
That's why we're here, content creation, guys. Um,
Exactly.
okay, so you have got a lot of different things that I want to touch on. The first thing I really do want to get into is how you took your passion for weather and you were really able to build a name and a brand around that, because I think that that's something that a lot of people struggle with, whether it's for their existing business they have now, or maybe it's just a passion or a hobby that they have that they would love to do more with, but they just don't really know how, or they feel a little embarrassed to do it. So how did that actually transpire from you were working as a weather girl and then you really got into the social media and kind of the front facing side for the Weather Channel? So tell us all about that.
Oh my God, this is actually a fun story. So I'm excited to share. I was actually against social media in the beginning. When Facebook came out and was available when I was in college in 2004, like I didn't want anything to do with it.
Me
One,
too.
one of my friends actually created a Facebook profile for me. She's like, Jen, you just need to be on it. So at my first job in local TV, we were required to have Twitter accounts, Facebook, all the things. And we were supposed to post forecasts on them, communicate with our fans and the audience and help them, answer weather questions and everything else. The funny thing is, in over, I think, 6 months, I maybe posted 3 tweets. And my news director was like, he brought me into his office. He's like, Jen, you can do better than this. I'm like, I could, but I'm just not into it. And I felt the pressure from him. And so I started like tweeting nonstop. He's like, I want you to tweet the forecast, tweet at other meteorologists, talk to everyone. And he kind of created a monster. I fell in love with social media through Twitter. And that's where I have my largest social media following. And we use that a lot for weather just because it's the most timely and least impacted by an algorithm. I'm not going to post a tornado warning on Instagram or Facebook where someone might see it 2 days from now and be like, oh my God, there's a tornado warning for my area. So That love kind of came from that, but I was resistant at first, though I realized like in the beginning, I'm like promoting myself. Like I feel like I'm bragging. What are people going to think? But it is so important to have a personal brand and not have all your eggs in one basket. Even if you have, like, my main job is the senior social media manager at Active Campaign, but I have side gigs with the Weather Channel and a whole bunch of other things. So you want to build up your personal brand. I think that's important. And most jobs now want you to have a personal brand so you can help promote the company you're working for, and they want to help support you. And so I think, in this day and age, you need that personal brand. And it doesn't matter what people think. What I've found out is, like, if I don't promote my podcast, people are like, Jen, you have a weather podcast. Why aren't you promoting it? And I'm like, well, that's right. I don't want to like seem like I'm bragging, but if people don't know what you're doing, then they don't know. And the best way to do is promote yourself, but in a self-service type of manner. You don't want to be like, oh, look at me, this, and this, but I do these things. And if anyone's interested, how can I help you? That is the best way to go about doing it. But building that personal brand, understanding what you stand for and your passion. I love weather. And we were just talking before we started recording, like how we both love the outdoors. Like I could not sit at a desk all day, every day. I have to, be in a whole bunch of different things. And so you got to find that passion and then just go for it, because you're not getting any younger. I mean, time just continues to go by, and it doesn't matter when you start. Don't wait for, the new year to start or anything like that. A lot of people wait several months. If you want to do something, do it now. That's the biggest thing that I've learned.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm sure that all of that social media engagement and practice and training definitely played a role in the Weather Channel and the live video series and all of that. So we will get into that in just a second. But honestly, I felt so similar to you when social media first came out. I hated it. I thought, oh my gosh, this is horrible. I don't want everyone to know everything I'm doing. I don't want everyone to see this stuff. Like, this was awful. And to be honest, to this day, I still have never been able to get into Twitter. Like, I wrote a book not that long ago, and my PR guy was like, you need to get on Twitter. This is how all the journalists talk. And I tried, and I've tweeted like 10 times. So I don't know, but it is so good for things like weather. My husband, he loves weather too. So he
Yeah.
follows Twitter for that all the time, obviously sports and just timely events. And it really is something where you can get information very quickly without needing a channel to deliver it to you specifically.
Yeah.
So as you got into Twitter and you started saying, hey, I can actually create relationships with people online. I can actually, do things that help my career grow. At what point did you make that transition to the Weather Channel? And was that for a social media style role, or was that for the TV role and the social media got brought into that? So tell us more about that.
So this is a great story. Actually, I realized how important it was just for my own brand to make sure I was putting out the forecast on social media, specifically Twitter.
Mhm.
I got the job at the Weather Channel because one of the producers was seeing my tweets and knew that I knew my weather knowledge, that I was like a true meteorologist.
Yes.
So I had applied for a meteorological content producer role, and he DM'd me on Twitter, and that's how I got the interview and then eventually got the job. So you never know who's watching. That's the amazing thing. Like, if you don't put it out there to the universe, hey, I want to do this. Like, one of the things I want to do, and who knows, maybe this will still happen, but my biggest dream is to be the first meteorologist to host Saturday Night Live. But like, everyone's like,
Never
Jen,
know.
yeah, you never know. And so, but if you don't put it out there to the universe, you never know if like a producer at NBC or someone may see that and be like, great idea, let's do it. So that's what was so important, because I've gotten basically all my roles, even my moving up before the Weather Channel to a bigger television market, they knew me from social.
Mhm.
And that's how those connections were so powerful in my life. And that's how I fell in love with it. And then social media came later on.
Yeah, I am right there with you. Honestly, I can look back and just see kind of a trail of social media originating relationships that
Yeah.
have led me to just about every great thing or next step that I've ever done, the different coaches that I've hired or the different speaking events, things like that. And I totally agree with you. You have to you have to be willing to put it out there, maybe just to yourself, speak it into existence. I believe in the power of the brain. I think that we are actually inclined to seek out the things that our brain is searching for. So if we're looking for negative things in our life, we will certainly find them. If
Yep.
we are telling ourselves that we're going to get these opportunities or we're going to do these things, your brain literally reaches out into the world to try and confirm those things and make them reality. And so it's something that I think social media has truly made so much easier.
Yes.
And I'm like, how did people do this before social media in terms of really developing that personal brand? Because it would be so difficult if all you had to rely on was a journalist from a newspaper or a magazine writing an article about you and saying whatever they wanted, presenting you in the way
Yes.
they wanted to present you, not the way you wanted to present you, which is so incredibly powerful because we basically get to be our own PR person. We really get to show the world how we want to be seen. Hopefully, it's accurate with who we really are,
Yes.
but it is just something that people in the past did not have the ability to do. And I really think that we, especially as women in business, very powerful. It's,
It
you got
truly
a
is.
great job with the Weather Channel from social media, where in the past it could have been that a female working at the Weather Channel may have had to work for 20 years to climb the ladder just because nobody knew who she was. She wasn't necessarily bringing anything different to the table other than her weather
Yes.
knowledge, but you're bringing a personality, you're bringing a following, you're bringing things that not everybody can do. So I just think it's so amazing and a lot easier than most people would realize, don't you think?
It is. And you nailed it on the head. Like you get to present yourself to the world the way you want to, right? Instead of relying on like word of mouth or something else. Like you get to share your craft, your creativity, your content to the world. And, I know there can be negativity on social media, but you learn that it's just like you don't want those negative people in your life. If
Yeah.
if they're not, your community or whatever, then just let it go. But like it's so true being your own PR person. And I think it's fun. I know some people don't like it, but I think it's just the connection you have. Like I've met so many people and I have so many friends on social that I still haven't met in person. But and we've been friends for years,
Yeah.
from Twitter way back in the day. And so maybe one day that'll happen, but I agree with you. Like the power of it is just incredible when it comes to your passion, entrepreneurship, business, dreams, everything. So
Well, my
yeah.
favorite part is when it comes offline, so for
Yes.
you, the Weather Channel, it was a strictly online thing. You were on Twitter, they were on Twitter, you got this interview, but now it's out in the real world. It's not just on social media. And some of the best friends and colleagues and people that I know, we started off just knowing each other from social media. And then I get the opportunity to meet them in person. And you already feel like you know them when you meet them. And it's, it just kind of expedites the relationship building, I think. And then you've got a very easy way to stay in touch. So you don't lose touch like you may with other people. So those have been just powerful, I think, because I don't have a tremendous number of people in my life that are into the marketing space or even entrepreneurship necessarily. And so it's not something that I talk about a lot with like my regular friends that I know here at home. And so when I do get to meet those people from my social media community, it's kind of like a free for all, getting to talk about the things that you always kind of hold back on a little bit because you're a little too geeky when it comes to something
Yes.
like that.
Oh my gosh, no, the amount of people that they're like, "Jen, you do social media for work?" I think they think it's so easy about like just making a post. I'm like, "No, there's UTM parameters that we track the
Yeah.
links and trials." I'm like, "There's a lot, it's not just likes and followers, not even close,
And
It's
even if it was just that, it's not even that easy to
no,
get all of those
no.
things.
Yeah, no, if you truly want to grow, you got to be creative with your process. You got to have different campaigns, you got to do all the things.
You
So
sure do.
yeah, it's hard. It's hard work.
It is hard. Well, you know what sounds really hard to me? Doing a live video in the middle of a storm. So I want to learn all about, okay, you're at the Weather Channel. Then the Weather Channel gets this big contract with Facebook for live video. So kind of walk us through that. And I want to hear really what you learned through that process of doing that much live video in a very unique situation.
Yeah, so we got this amazing contract. I can't spill all the beans, but it was a year-long contract. And the interesting thing was we had to do 120 Facebook Lives per month. I feel like when I finish that sentence, everyone expects me to say a year. No, it's a month. And we split that up between the digital team and me. Basically, I was in charge of 60, they were in charge of another 60. But what I realized really fast is that perfection had to go out the window. And I'm a recovering perfectionist. I still struggle sometimes, but it was basically two a day, if you break it down from 60. And so we had to get really creative. And what we first started with was we have like these amazing studios. We're like, let's just do the lives like TV, but on social, on Facebook. And, our audience was like, it's cool, sort of. But when we did fun things like we'd just go live for a few minutes, like 5 or 6 minutes between commercial breaks, right? And we'd have an on-camera meteorologist running from one studio to another being like, hey guys, in the middle of a commercial break, we're going to do this, do that. Everyone's like, oh my god, it's Jim Cantori behind the scenes, this is amazing. And so we realized the more raw and real you were, the better. And I think we kind of, just because we had fancy equipment didn't necessarily mean that that would, do better when it comes to Facebook Lives and relating to the audience. The most important thing about marketing in general is being relatable. If you're not relatable, it's not going to matter. No one's going to care. And so when we had our on-camera meteorologists, going live in the field or between commercial breaks or in the studio with just them and nothing fancy, those did so much better. So I learned really quickly that throw perfection out the window, having to be creative really fast, and how important audio is. When we were out in the field, and this is something, and the lighting too, because if the lighting is poor, it may not catch the eye of someone who's just scrolling through, and they
100%.
just may not be like, okay, we're just not going to watch this. But the audio is key. Like if your audio is struggling, it takes probably 5 seconds or less for someone to be like, and we're going to drop it off. That
Mhm.
was a struggle when it came to storms and we were out in the field and
I can imagine.
there's an impending hurricane and we're already getting wind gusts. But what we realized is that helped tell the story that we were trying to tell. So we were okay with imperfect audio to a point,
Mhm.
but then when it got too hard to understand and frustrating, we would, drop it off and try and do something else or get them into a more enclosed location. But that helped tell the story. But it was the audio and making sure you test that audio ahead of time. You can do that, but always test the audio. And with doing that many live videos, I would say we made every mistake in the book just because it happens. And
Yeah.
then Facebook would drop out and we would drop the live. And the biggest thing is if you drop a live, just hop right back on and be like, hey, we're having technical difficulties, and just move on from there. One of the things when I was, on camera, we had, this wasn't at the Weather Channel, this was at a local station. We had our computer forecast system go down. And so literally like it froze and it was stuck on one of the weather graphics. And they're like, my news director was like, in my ear, slowly walk off camera, pretend like, nothing's wrong and try and fix the computer while still giving the forecast. I'm like, that's going to look really weird. And I did that. And what I should have done was been like, hey, doesn't it suck sometimes to have computer problems? We're having computer problems. So I'm going to walk off camera, try and fix it while still giving you the forecast, like letting them know.
Yeah.
But that's like the biggest thing is with live video, anything can happen and you just run with it. You roll with the punches. If you're worried about, things being 100% perfect, then you're never going to go live. And yes, you want the lighting to be good. Yes, you want the audio. Also, we learned there's this one studio at the Weather Channel that gets horrible signal, and we would drop the live instantly almost. And we're just like, okay, we can never go live from there. But make sure you have at least 3 bars or more before you actually go live. That was a good lesson we learned too. But the thing is, just do it. And sometimes, if you don't just do it, you'll never start. And this forced us into doing a lot of lives. We learned a lot. We realized we had that contract. We had to do this many lives, but we were wearing our audience out at the same time with notifications. So after this contract ended, we definitely pulled back. But it's one of those things where, it was an amazing experience and I'm glad we did it. And it pushed made us push the limits. And so, and we had like millions of views on a couple of them, which is amazing.
That
So
really is. And honestly, 120 a month is so much that it really kind of expedited the learning curve for you. I mean, I
yes.
think for everyone was in the same boat at that point. It was just coming out and it was just getting bigger. And so no other brands were really advanced in it yet, but you guys were kind of forced to be advanced very, very quickly. But sometimes that's the only way to learn, like you said. And ultimately, I think that even people that don't go live very often, I still think that some of those same principles apply to pre-recorded video too,
Yeah.
because number one, people simply like won't do it because they're waiting for something perfect, or they think that having fancy equipment and some picture perfect studio or something is what they need. And that's not even what typically works best. Exactly like you said, people they think social media is behind the scenes, even though it sometimes is. It's still mainly a highlight reel, but it
Yeah.
is a less perfect and polished picture of any business, and that is what people want. Because if they just wanted to see your perfect and polished image, they'd look on your website, or they'd watch the TV show, or they'd go somewhere that is perfectly curated and never really changes. But people like things that are off the cuff, that are unpredictable. And I just see so many people, they never record any type of video. Like, I'd
Yeah.
be hard pressed to get some of them to do live video. It would be very difficult. But even with pre-recorded, it's like if you can't get to pre-recorded video, you'll never get to live video. Sometimes it might be better to just dive in with live video and get all of that anxiety out, get all of that
Yes.
off your chest, that it has to be perfect, that things need to look professional. That's really not what is going to capture people's attention. And truthfully, you don't need a lot of viewers for it to be very worthwhile. And I think that that's another thing people have misconceptions about. So I see you shaking your head.
Yeah.
Let's hear all about what you guys learned from that.
Oh my God, all the things. So really quick, when it comes to fancy equipment, I wanted to say we were at an airport in Texas for the National Hurricane Tour, and like imagine just these loud airplane engines. And we actually sent kits, like little mini suitcases with like lav mics and unidirectional mics, Rode mics. We tested it all. What worked best was the audio on the iPhone itself, as crazy as that sounds. So you really don't need fancy equipment. You just don't need that at all. But what I've learned is a lot of executives want that follower growth, right? They want this massive following that's going to solve all the problems. But no, it really doesn't. Yes, you want to continue to grow your audience, but you want an engaged audience. If you
Mhm.
don't have an engaged audience that actually cares and like likes your content and asks questions and comments, then it doesn't really matter. And so we learned really quickly with live video that helped give us a boost in the algorithm, especially since Facebook was rewarding that at the time, a lot actually. But it allowed us to connect with our fans, and we learned a lot more of what they wanted to know, and we were able to create more content around that too. We were better content creators across all social because we learned more of what they needed and what our viewers wanted. And so I think that was the one of the biggest learnings out of that is that engagement, right? And that shot our engagement rate throughout the roof. And without having that two-way conversation and connecting on a personal level with all the individual meteorologists, we wouldn't have had, that viewership, I think, that if we didn't do that, it builds that trust and it builds people, that community for continuing to come to the Weather Channel and watch it.
It absolutely does. And I agree with content. What we can think we know what people want, and we're often wrong. That's why I think people that are great in marketing, they kind of come to it with this humble approach. Like, I don't know everything everybody wants. That's why I'm going to put it out there and I'm going to test it and I'm going to see what they like and
Yes.
what they want, because they are the best guide in terms of what to do. You let the data and the engagement and the comments and all of those things guide your next steps. And if you're really paying attention to it, you will continue to get better and better and better results. But if you just keep doing what you think people want or what you want to do, not what they want you to do, then that's when people kind of just, they don't grow, they don't see any boost, they don't see any benefit, and they get burnout. But it's because they're too focused on themselves and not focused enough on what the audience does need. So
Yes.
tell me some of the things that you learned that people wanted through that experience, either the types of content or maybe the topics or the formats. Like, what were the things that really either surprised you or that you just saw pretty significantly?
Well, people wanted their localized forecast more than anything. They're like, right over my neighborhood, we want this.
Yeah.
What we learned was the significance of A B testing. Yes, we A B tested like blog posts and our content, but we were doing so many videos a month. We were able to test out different formats and, different subjects. And do they just want a Q&A with the meteorologist not talking about the weather? Or do they want something different? And so we were able to learn how important that was when it comes to A/B testing, but also consistency. We would try to make sure, yes, at first we tested out different times during the day we went live, but then we found the ones that worked for us and we went live at those times. And we realized too, even through this process, even just being in social media in general, consistency is key for everything. So people learn what content to expect when from your social channels. And also, if you're trying something new, if it doesn't do well over like the first 2 to 3 weeks, you can't say that's a failure. You have to test it for at least 4 to 6 or 8 weeks. Your audience has to learn, okay, they're doing live video now. This is where they're going to give this content, where they're having, those asking those questions or whatever. And so you have to allow your audience time to learn where to find different things, and you have to educate them. Hey, we're going to be going live twice a day now for the next year. So, whatever questions or content you want, let us know. And so like asking them directly what content they're looking for, because that's what we did a lot of the time, like having to be that creative like twice a day. And we didn't want to just do anything. And Facebook wanted us to test different formats as well.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest learning from it with the content anyway is just people wanted raw, people wanted real, but people wanted something relatable to them and how it impacted them. And
Hmm.
so if you're going to put a piece of content out, whether it's live video or just something stagnant, whether it's a pre-recorded video, an image, you got to make it relatable to the audience in some way. Why does it matter to them? How does it impact to them? Otherwise, it doesn't matter. And I learned the power also, and you learn this in regular social media, but those first like 4 to 5 words of post copy in general, whether it's live video, like the title, or just a regular post, an image or video post, that is powerful too. We A/B tested the titles of different things.
Hmm.
And I mean, we would just move or change one word and it would have a huge impact. We did that on our blog posts too. And we were surprised. We're like, wow, people like for some reason that's resonating a lot better than this way. And so we learned the power of A/B testing and just making sure that all of the content we made was relatable to our audience and what they wanted. And like you said, not what we wanted. It has to be self-serving. What is the crucial information they're really wanting to know on a day-to-day basis, but also when a major hurricane, snowstorm, tornado outbreak, whatever is on their doorstep.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. And it also, is something that I really feel like people miss when it comes to their engagement that they're getting on some of their posts or videos. Maybe you were speaking to a really specific audience in terms of how this thing impacted them. And maybe it's not going to resonate with everyone in the same way because not everyone is the same type of audience or the same avatar or the same type of buyer. And so I think it's important to know that not every single piece of content has to be for your entire audience. You can
Yes.
segment this to really speak so clearly to a specific group,
Mhm.
and you don't have to alienate the rest. You can do specific pieces of content for those other people as well. But also with A B testing, it is so underrated. I think
Yes.
within just the general business owner population, that
Yes.
is literally the only way to find things out. And if you have all these different variables, you can't actually identify what the change was.
Yeah.
And then maybe, hey, this one got better results, but why did it get better results? So we can do that thing the next time as well. And I just see very few people actively doing that. And it's so simple to take that blog and to
Yes.
have two different titles, two different subject lines. So
Yeah.
on the content side, were there any styles of titles or subject lines or live video titles, headlines that really kind of resonated in terms of, a theme that you could repeat with other pieces of content?
I think the biggest thing was the way we describe the storms. Some of them were like this beast of a storm or whatever. The one thing you have to be careful of, right, is you don't want to be this hype train.
Yeah.
And so we didn't want to, I forget the exact word.
Like the
When it
clickbait,
Yes,
hyperbolic
clickbait.
type. Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
a very delicate balance, and it's okay to test like some, mini clickbait things just to see, but it was a delicate balance between that and just like the power of it. Like this storm has like a massive wind field of like
Mhm.
200, 300 miles. We use the powerful facts, the shocking facts that people are like, holy crap, like a million people are going to be under this like hurricane warning and this is what's happening. So the most powerful and impactful statement or words that we could use, we use those right off the bat, or at least we tried to. And I think that's key to like that rolled into the rest of our content and even content I'm doing now that's not related to weather, but like how is it going to impact, like how am I going to get a 30% open rate or click rate? It's just sharing those tips. And we do a lot of A/B testing when it comes to email subject lines. Like everything you said, like you said, needs to be A/B tested. From being a social media manager, tracking metrics is crucial, even like on a daily basis, but a weekly basis. You have to know where you stand so you're not like shocked at the end of the month and you're like, wow, none of that worked. It's like, but were you tracking it? Did we change anything? If we were using the same copy for everything, you got to mix it up a little bit. Like the images have to be powerful, and I like spicy images. Like some people use the term sexy, but I like spicy, that it's just
I say
like
spicy all the time because
we're
most of the time it's not sexy. It's just spicy and
it is.
interesting and engaging. Not everything has to be on that level to be
Yeah.
something people want.
Yeah, you want to provide that intrigue. And so what I've learned when it comes to like engagement is so important, is doing polls, asking questions. And really like if you're running out of content topics to ask, just ask a question, how can I help you? Like what's the biggest number one problem in your business and how can we help or maybe direct you in a way to help? So, those are kind of different tips I've learned along the way, because we're in holiday planning mode. Obviously, everyone is mostly in holiday planning mode. So we've got like our campaigns almost completely done. We're ready to go. But, we're focusing on, A/B testing some different content and just figuring out what has worked from the past and then moving that forward. Kind of like weather forecasting in a weird way. So,
No, but it's so true. I think that there are so many different insights across all industries that apply in life. And really, what you learned from all of those live videos at the Weather Channel, they still help you today because it wasn't about weather. It was about content. It was about what people want, about psychology and how people think. And if you can
yeah.
really master some of those principles, which there's always more to learn, but if you can really understand what it is that people respond to, what it is they're looking for, how they want to feel, or, the things that they want to discover, it can change from topic to topic or business to business. But those principles overall, I feel like they remain pretty constant because human beings remain pretty constant in all honesty. Like their behavioral patterns, the way people think, it doesn't change that much. So if you can really find those things with A/B testing, with tracking, you will have them for a lifetime no matter what offers you have or businesses you run or ways that you market, platforms you're on. So it's, again, very underrated. I'm big on tracking. We have like a daily tracking sheet for ads, for sales. We do it, it all aggregates weekly and monthly, and it just never ends. But it's so empowering, I feel,
Yeah.
because I always know if there is something going wrong or if there's something going right, I can look and say, okay, this is what's different. This is what needs to be improved, or this is the thing that's gotten really, really great. And that's responsible for what I'm dealing with. So I think that just like weather, marketing, it's
Yeah.
got principles that are steadfast. And if you have certain conditions, it's going to lead in a certain direction. And
Yes.
so it's just, everything kind of ties together. But that's just so amazing because very few people, I think, would have that experience that you had to be forced to do it as much as you were. I'm
Yes.
sure you weren't like forced, handcuffed, but it was a lot. I would assume that's a lot of live video.
Oh yeah, basically what happened was our one of the executives signed this, and then they said like it was a week or two before it started. They're like, "Oh, by the way, we signed this contract. You have to do 2 lives a day now." And we're like, "I'm sorry, what?" So it was literally like that shocking.
I didn't sign up for that.
I know.
You signed up for that.
Yeah, we ended up hiring someone that I oversaw to help with it because it was just such a
Oh,
big
yeah.
thing. And fun pro tip, really quick, when it comes to live video, which I realized, and I did this in my last role at Agora Pulse. And so when I did the interview lives, I would make sure like the first question I asked the interviewee was really long. Like I knew it would have to be a couple minutes. You can't boost a live that's going on currently through a desktop, but you can on your phone on the app. So what I would do is I would have Facebook. I had my whole audience, like custom audience and everything created. So while like they were answering the first question, if you had seen a camera behind the scenes, I was literally boosting the live.
That is
Now,
an awesome tip.
and now, so the thing is, we all know Facebook can take its time with things, and so
Mhm.
we're like, did it actually get boosted while we were live? And a lot of times the live would go over an hour just because the conversation was so
Yeah.
good. um but we realized there were a couple of them where like, wow, we're all of a sudden we're getting like a big boost of people joining, and it's because it got boosted. And
Mhm.
so I realized that. And another quick live tip, if you can't go live for 7 to 10 minutes, then probably don't go live and maybe shoot a couple of short videos,
Yeah.
because you want to give enough people time to be able to actually join the live and ask questions, because they may get a notification that you're live, but they won't be able to listen to it maybe in that moment. Or, they're just getting out of a meeting and they can only join and then it's done. So that was one of the biggest things they actually recommended to us. I think it was, I'm not sure actually if our lives had to have a certain length, maybe 15 to 20 minutes. So I usually like to stay between 10 and 20, if not more. And then going over 30 minutes only if there's enough content to keep that excitement and interest going.
Mhm.
So,
No, that really is such a great tip, both of them. But I mean, especially boosting it while you're live, because I think that really hurts people's confidence when they start with live video because they, for some reason, expect it to be a flood of people that are on there. And truthfully, it's live. Everybody's going about their life, especially if people aren't used to you doing that, they're not expecting it. And there might not be very many people there. More people can see it later. That's the point. But if you can actually, even just for a couple of dollars, I think people would be
mhm,
surprised at how far just a few dollars can go, especially with video ads. You can get a lot more people right there, which is then going to
yes.
boost the engagement in the video itself, which is then going to get it out to more people, which is going to boost the engagement. So it's like this repeating wheel. And I'm just like, wow, I've got to start doing that because
So
I never knew that. And that is just such a great tip to really get everything going off on the right foot as quickly as
yes.
possible.
We did that, and so, like, I would usually do, like, $50, sometimes 100, depends on the budget that you have. I think the
Yeah.
most I ever did was, like, 200. I'm like, "We're going for it." I'm like, "This is a big deal." I'm like, "We got this." One other quick thing too, all the ideas are coming at once now, is we had show sponsors. So this was for a guest show. You don't have to do a guest show, but show sponsors, and so it would be like an influencer or another marketer in the field where they wouldn't be interviewed, but they would be driving the conversation in the comments. So helping with that engagement. So I would be driving the show. They would also be asking like the same questions in the comments and helping answer questions. But even if like you're not doing an interview show, but you're just going live, having a coworker or someone just writing some comments and helping answer questions, that can help drive the engagement too and give it an extra
Yeah.
boost.
No, that is a great tip. Honestly, it's like your wingman. Um,
Yes. Yes.
and everybody, everybody wants to feel like someone cares as well.
Mhm.
So especially if you are smaller or you don't do a lot of live video or any live video, it probably would just make you feel better if you know that there's somebody on there commenting, watching. You're not just doing this live video for an empty auditorium, so to speak. Even if it's your mom, that's okay. You
Yeah.
know, we have daughters. Like, we hope that we can be that woman typing on our child's social media one day. I'll be your hype woman any day of the week.
Yes.
There are so many great topics here, and honestly, I think we could probably go on with this one specifically forever, but I will definitely just have to have you back another time to
Mhm.
dive deeper into live video, also talk about some non-live video related topics, because
Yeah.
you're just a wealth of knowledge in marketing and weather. It's a 2-for-1 gift that we were blessed with today.
Oh my gosh, I love you so much. I know, I feel like we could talk for another hour or
We
2, so
certainly
we'll have
could.
to do it. We'll make it
Yeah.
happen.
We'll have to have another real life encounter soon.
Yes, absolutely. It's gonna
Social
happen.
media, but social media keeps us in touch
It
until that
does.
day.
It does.
I'm excited.
Absolutely.
Okay, so any other final tips or words of wisdom you would like to leave the audience with today?
The biggest thing is when it comes to content creation, I would say every month with your team, have a meeting where it's just like a crazy idea meeting where like the executives would say no to it, but still think about it and just throw them at the wall, write them down, because you never know when a good idea can come from something so wild and out there. But don't constrict yourself with creativity. Just throw the wildest idea you can have. And even if it's going to cost millions of dollars, you can still downplay it to something that maybe your business or you could do yourself. But don't like have a bad idea meeting, I guess you could say in quotations, like
Yeah.
just have fun with it. And that
Okay, it's
helps
so
with,
funny that you say that though, because one of my students on our call today, they have an app in the UK, and it's an app for local businesses, and it's kind of like a Groupon style type of thing. But anyway, so they told me that have you seen the preview or the show? It's just came out on Netflix. It's called Squid Games.
oh my God, no, but everyone tells me that I need to start watching it.
I just watched it this weekend. Pretty effed up, but very good. Um, so anyway, they're literally gonna dress up like that and make the cards and go out on the corner and hand them out to people.
Oh,
And I just thought it was such a great idea, but it's totally off the wall and it doesn't technically have anything to do with their business. But I think people are gonna love it. So
yes.
something like that. You really have to think out of the box, but that's the kind of thing that that's the kind of thing that can explode your social media or can drive tremendous business, because it's not something that everybody's doing. And guess what? If it fails, what is failure really?
You
Like,
just learn.
you do.
I love failure in a weird sense, not to fail all the time, but that's how you learn. That's the only way you learn. So,
Absolutely. Trial and error. That's the name of the game. Got to
yeah.
embrace it, or
Ex-
you will be in that perfectionist anxiety bubble for the rest of your life.
This is so true. And you don't want to be in that. It's more fun outside of the bubble.
It is way more fun. All right. This was amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. So if people want to learn more about you, find you, reach out to you, where can they go?
Oh, they can go to Jennifer Weather on Instagram, at jwatson_WX on Twitter. I try to get Jennifer Weather, but someone has it and they're just holding on to it. Those two are the best. Jennifer Watson TV on Facebook. And I would say, yeah, those are the best ways to get a hold of me. So,
Yeah, we'll
yeah.
have to send that Twitter handle an offer. They can't refuse.
Yes. I think I need to. I really think I need to. I'm going to. We'll make it
Send them
happen.
a Squid Game card with your phone number on the back.
Yes.
Literally would be hilarious. All right.
That's gonna
Thank you so
happen.
much for joining me today. I know the audience is going to love it and can't wait to have you back again soon.
Awesome. Thank you. Can't wait to be back.
Bye, guys.